Welcome to another week, guys. Hey, week 11 of the Don't Ask Me Why podcast with Reggie and Roger. Say hi, Roger.
Hey, how you doing, Reg? How are things down your way?
They are wonderful, wonderful. So let's go ahead and get things started. But before we do, folks, let's go ahead, get out there, subscribe to our YouTube page, subscribe to our IG at the Don't Ask Me Why podcast, the Don't Ask Me Why podcast. Check us out. We got content going, and your support is very much welcome. So we look forward to your participation on that. And of course, you can catch us on Spotify, Google Podcasts, and all major podcast mediums that are available. Another week, Raj. Another week. The picks, we're bouncing back pretty nicely. Last week we were 4-2. This week we were 4-2 again. We were maybe not this close to hitting the 5-1 mark because the Bills kind of wet the bed last night.
Yeah,
so that's on me.
No,
but
that's fine.
But overall, we increased our overall percentage to 26-20-2, which is a 56% clip, which is pretty much above the industry average. So, what are your thoughts on the past couple of weeks there?
You know, I don't think that any time that we go 4-2, I think that's something to be really happy about. Because again, going back to week one guest, our most popular podcast that we've done so far, Chris from Hollywood Casino, he told us in a subsequent episode that he was on that he said, man, if you guys are hitting over 55%, he said, you're doing as well as the top bettors in Vegas that bet all year long would be thrilled to have that type of percentage. So we're 4-2 each of the last 2 weeks, which is again 66%. That's what we're striving for, and we're going to continue to bump it up, man. You know, I mean, we're a stone's throw this week from being perfect. So that's the goal every week. Is we each make 3 picks. We want to go perfect 6-0, and again, a reminder: the picks that we make are against the spread. We're not just picking winners. We're not just saying like, Cowboys are going to beat the Giants, the obvious stuff. We're having to lay, in a case like that, Dallas to win by 17, right? So what we're doing is what's widely accepted to give you a lot of kudos if you can hit at a high percentage.
Yeah, and we're doing it pretty late into the season as well. So we're beyond the halfway mark, maintaining this high of a clip. So kudos to us. We should pat ourselves on the back. But let's get into it. So we talked about him last week. We're going to talk about him again. He led the show last week. He's going to lead again. So CJ Stroud, probably had the biggest win of his NFL career, and barring anything catastrophic, he has the Offensive Rookie of the Year all but locked up, I would think. But Roger, does it end there? Is CJ Stroud a legit MVP candidate right now?
You know, I think that he is, especially if they make the playoffs. I would say in this day and age, in order to be MVP, rookie or otherwise, you would have to make the playoffs and probably win a game or two. Because typically a Super Bowl hero or Super Bowl MVP that had the best team in the league is going to have the edge unless he can get there. Now, if he can get there, and who knows what he can do from this point, he's already been doing ridiculous record-breaking things. So maybe he can make it to that point.
That's a good point in terms of, I understand what you're doing now, and what you're doing now is fantastic, but you need to carry that into the postseason and actually have some success in the postseason. I think he'll be in the top 5 when it's all said and done if he continues at this pace. The only thing that's going to hold him back from being a legit candidate is the team success.
Yeah.
Which kind of leads to our next question and next topic is really Houston as a team. Are they legit in a weak AFC South? And what's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, they absolutely are. And you know, I was thinking about this earlier today. Other than three teams that I could pick out of the whole league, New England, Arizona, other than them and the Pats, the Patriots, of course, everybody else has a shot to make the playoffs, other than three teams out of 32. Now, if that's not parity that will make the commissioner smile and all of the, you know, talking heads at the top of the league, that's what they hope for, is to have everybody in the mix when you get to the final, you know, coming down the stretch when you have like 4 weeks, 5 weeks left, that everybody has a shot. And then with the expanded playoff team added and the additional week, you know, you can see where they're going. They want to make sure that everybody is in the horse race going to the end. They can possibly be there because it's better for the league. It's better for revenue, ratings, attendance, all that stuff.
Yeah, because they definitely needed help with all of that revenue, attendance.
Yeah, and revenue in the NFL is, you know, they're just doing so bad. You know, I feel bad. You know,
but another team, I think both of us we looked at the Vikings as sort of a wrap a few weeks ago, but in steps in the old Joshua Dobbs. He does it again. He works his magic. He almost looks like he's mastered the playbook after a couple of weeks. So I think it's wonderful what he's doing. And again, NFC North, Detroit pretty much has it locked up, but there's room for that wild card coming out of the North because again, every division is pretty much up for grabs in terms of number 2 or even number 1 in that division. You know, especially like the NFC South. So the Vikings, are you looking at that as being, hey, you know what? We may have had that wrong.
You know, last week we touched on a little bit. We were talking about like, you know, who we thought were likely candidates or candidate for coach of the year. And I think that we almost agreed that maybe Dan Campbell for Detroit would be the coach of the year, top pick at this point. But listen, Kevin O'Connell at Minnesota, a.k.a. KOC. I just found that out today. He's widely known among his team and others as KOC. So KOC, with what he's done with a team that started out 1-4, and I'd written him off, and I think most people had, and then he has Cousins go out with a season-ending injury. You know, his backup quarterback gets hurt, and he's playing his emergency quarterback, who's doing extraordinary things over the last 2 weeks. It's Hollywood script-like.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think that Kevin O'Connell, if they continue on and get into the playoffs, I would say that he has to be considered as well.
Certainly. At this rate, like I said, Detroit has that division locked up seemingly. Anything can happen, but definitely what Kevin O'Connell has done, turned things around. And mind you, there's no Justin Jefferson out there these past couple of weeks as well. So he should be, he just got off the IR. So he should be back on that field within the next couple of weeks. And that just adds on to their improvement and their turnaround.
And that man-child Hawkinson tight end.
Yeah.
The other well-known tight end in the league, you know, minus Taylor Swift. You know, this guy carries guys down the field just like he does. So, you know, so I think Hawkinson is a little bit underrated.
Yeah. All right. I'm gonna move on.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I love what they're doing. Dobbs has been clutch. The backup saga continues. You know, just a league full of backups. Unfortunately, Derek Carr went down. Jameis came in. in that Vikings game, when he comes out and plays now, he has all of the tools. He can throw every type of pass. He looks good in the pocket, good footwork seemingly. But it just seems like he makes some throws where it almost seems like he wants to stay on the bench. It's like he does things, he makes throws that I'm like, is he really serious? And I was just looking at that game and I was just like, wow, come on, Jameis, you're just content just being a backup? Because I think in a lot of cases, he could be a starter still, but
I don't know. I don't know if you know my background from a job perspective, but we've both had highs and lows in our careers. I'm in sales, you're in sales. We both had highs and lows, like extremely high highs and some really low lows. When I think about Jameis, where he is right now in his career, to me, it kind of reminds me of where Geno Smith is right now in his career, right? He was almost written off completely, and then he gets this new life in Seattle, finds his niche, finds his system, finds his coach that he flourishes under, and look what he's done. Yeah. Look what he's gotten to. So for Jameis, I think that he has all those tools and more than Geno Smith does. Hopefully he just, finds his niche here and can take it to the next level.
Yeah. Well, in the same vein of backups or no longer needing a backup, Arizona got Kyler Murray back. He performed. He used his feet a good amount to get that win for them. So they got their second win of the season. So, as it stands now, I think they're maybe the second pick in the draft if the draft were to start today. So glad to see him back. And speaking of which, the Patriots, they're 2-8. If the NFL were to draft today, they would be picking 3. What happens first? Bellichek gets fired or he retires?
If New England fires Bill Bellichek, I have zero respect for the organization and the owner, because how many Super Bowls? 6 Super Bowl wins, and Hall of Fame. A lot of people think greatest of all time coach. I don't think that a couple of bad years at the end of his 20-year tenure now in New England and that incredible record, you don't fire a guy like that. Right. You can talk to him in behind closed doors and tell him that we're moving on. We prefer to you resign and you go into the Ring of Honor and all that type of stuff. You're honored incredibly in future years in New England, all that type of thing. But to fire him, no, I don't think that would sit well with almost anyone.
Yeah, he's earned quite a bit of equity. I just don't see that happening. I see him retiring before anything like that were to happen. But it's just a shock to the system to when spring rolls around and the stock starts and we see the Patriots at number 3. Now, knowing the Patriots in history, they've traded out and stockpile draft picks, so I wouldn't be surprised if they were to trade back. But they really got to replace Matt Jones, so they really have to do that. Period, point blank.
Right. Well, I've told several people this week that if Mac Jones plays in the NFL next year at all, he should win the Comeback Player of the Year award.
He should just get it just for even being on the field.
Yeah, if he takes a snap, he should be Comeback Player of the Year. Because there's no way that he belongs on the field in an NFL game beyond this year.
And we've been saying that since probably week 1.
Week 1.
The Don't Ask Me Why
podcast. Guy that's going to get benched. Yeah.
Yeah. Speaking of potentially or losing their job, Ken Dorsey We saw what happened with the Bills. I tweeted from our account, the Don't Ask Me Why X account. No one calls it X, but follow us there. But I tweeted that everyone needs a fall guy. And I don't know if you recall Chris Carter saying that at a rookie symposium probably about 10 years ago. And he got in a lot of trouble for telling the rookies, hey, if you're going to get into some dirt, make sure you have a fall guy to take the blame and go to jail on your behalf. And so the Bills found their fall guy in Ken Dorsey. And in fact, it may have been his issue because there's a certain head coach who used to be there who, with him at OC, they look pretty formidable. Ever since he's left, and you know what I'm talking about, Brian Daboll, things haven't been as high-powered as they were a couple of years ago. Any thoughts on that?
Again, offensive coordinators, even head coaches, to be honest, only have a certain percentage of influence or whatever on what their teams do on the field. I watched that game last night. Some of the plays that Josh Allen was making, were all on him. They weren't on the offensive coordinator. And you could see where Josh Allen, when he threw that pick at the end of the first half after they had just taken over possession on a turnover from the defense, he immediately throws it into double coverage with 39 seconds left, trying to make this big play where it really wasn't warranted at that point. The game was still close. And that's on him. That's not on an offensive coordinator. So there's only so much. And if you look at it, what are they now? 5-5. They're very much in the mix and all that. But I don't know. I don't know that you throw all that blame on an offensive coordinator or a coach and make them the fall guy in that situation. Because I'll tell you this, Ken Dorsey has a nice resume, and someone in the NFL will pick him up in that same role going forward.
I agree. I definitely think he was the fall guy. Do you remember him in Miami? I liked him in Miami. Yeah. I liked him in Miami. But that has nothing to do with his coaching ability, apparently. No, that's nothing to laugh about, but that's unfortunate. Now, speaking of X or Twitter and coaches and their jobs, your guy, Irving Magic Johnson, what he does, and I don't know if you've noticed, what he does especially after a Commander's loss, he will get onto Twitter or X and he'll tweet an observation and just about the game and just leaves it at that. He most recently, after this loss, he said, very simple, but I think there's a method to his madness. Quote, heartbreaking loss to the Seattle Seahawks today. Defensively, we couldn't come up with a big play to stop Seattle during their last two drives. Now, he does this routinely now. That's his way of sort of a dog whistle almost to the fan base, letting them know that I'm fed up with this stuff. And so something's going to happen, but I'm going to do it in a diplomatic way. You being kind of local, your quarterback, do they finally have their quarterback now?
Sam
Howell. In the midst of just the same mediocrity of 5-5 and hovering around 500. What are your thoughts on that? And Sam Howell has been playing fantastic in spite of all of this.
Everyone in this area, in the DMV, and for those of you not around the DC area, DMV just means DC, Maryland, Virginia. So everybody in the DMV.
So it's not the place where you sit for 3 hours to get your license.
It can be.
Okay.
It can be.
Okay.
So there's a dual meaning there, and I've spent a lot of time in both places. I've spent as much time in both DMVs, about the same, I would say. So over the course of my adult life. But I think that everybody here knows in this area, everybody is very much aware that the Rivera Del Rio regime and that era is ending at the end of this year. Harris, the new owner, the conventional wisdom is that because of the way he has built successful organizations in the past, that he'll be classy about it. And unless they completely fall apart, like in the next 4 or 5 games, he's going to keep Rivera on throughout the end of the year. And then they'll have a parting of the ways at the end of the year. And I'm guessing that, that they already have in mind who replacements might be. The betting public would say that it would be Eric Bieniemy, but we'll see on that. Some people are talking about Bellichek leaving New England, coming here, all that. But if you did that with a 72-year-old coach like Bellichek would be at that point, I would have to think it would be with the mindset that he would come in for like 3 years, 2 or 3 years, turn the ship around, head it back the other way, leave it in good hands, and then move on. Because
Yeah. How old was Gibbs when he came back in the early 2000s?
He was, I think, late 60s.
Okay.
And
Okay.
and the thing that killed me about the people that bashed him when he came back, first of all, some of them weren't old enough to remember when he won the Super Bowls as one of the greatest coaches of all time. And when he came back, Gibbs 2.0, they don't have the memory to realize that when he came back, they went to the playoffs 2 out of 4 years. Back 4 years, they went to the playoffs twice. That's a better record than they've had since. So in terms of making the playoffs. So Joe Gibbs was one of a kind. And yeah, I think he was like late 60s, maybe 70 by the time he left.
Okay. All right. We got some nice, juicy matchups coming up this week, with arguably leading it off the 2 best teams in the NFL, and the Eagles playing at the Chiefs. We've been talking about this matchup since the beginning of the season. Everyone has had this circled on the calendar. So this is a huge matchup with 2 of the Titans in the NFL.
Yeah.
The AFC North is essentially a cage match. It's like a Royal Rumble.
Yeah.
The Bengals against the Ravens, the Steelers against the Browns.
Yeah.
Interdivision turmoil and fighting. So, what are your thoughts on these 3 matchups? Some good games coming up.
Well, I mean, potentially all 4 teams in that division could make the playoffs, right?
That would be a first, I believe.
And I was talking to some people at work about it today. Like if you look at those teams in that division, who's the odd man out? Somebody tried to tell me Pittsburgh today. I'm like, Pittsburgh? Are you kidding me?
I could make the argument that Pittsburgh is playing the best ball in that division right now.
Even though it's primarily defensively, but that's Mike Tomlin. He finds ways to win. He finds out what's working and he focuses in on that. So it's hard for me to kick anybody out of that mix.
I'm sure there's some sort of mathematical impossibility there of all 4 making it, but it may be one of those scenarios when it's all said and done, there may be 1 or 2 teams that are out on the outside looking in that I bet you the public will look and say, you know what, these 2 teams who didn't make the playoffs could probably beat the wild card teams that are in the playoffs, because the AFC North is that competitive. So it will be heartbreaking to see any of them, the way they're playing, miss it, with the Browns defense, with the Steelers defense and the leadership of Tomlin, the excitement of the Ravens and how explosive they can be, but they can be Jekyll and Hyde-ish. And then the Bengals, you see what Burrow is capable of when he is hitting on all cylinders, but they're just not putting it together. They regress, it seems. So hopefully a lot of those answers can be answered, or questions can be answered from these teams with these matchups upcoming.
Somehow, some way, I think that Cincinnati took Houston lightly last week.
Oh,
I don't know
absolutely.
how that could happen. The way Stroud's been playing and Houston in general, I don't know how that could happen, that they could take him lightly, but somehow I think they did.
I agree.
And so Baltimore lost at home to Cleveland in a close one, another upset. The only thing that I wish wasn't scheduled this week is the Baltimore-Cincinnati game being on a Thursday night.
Mm-hmm.
I wish that both of those teams had the entire week to prepare for the game and come out on Sunday going mano a mano. Because 3 days, 4 days, probably some injuries, people dinged up. I'm not sure that you're going to get the best game on Thursday night.
Well, they're on equal footing, so both played on Sunday. So we'll see how it turns out, but it's certainly going to be some exciting action with those 3 games leading the way.
Yeah.
We have fan mail. We got a couple this week. Let's start with our guy Cecil. Cecil from Tallahassee. Tally ho, as we used to put it.
Did you ever watch Beanie and Cecil as a kid? Beanie and Cecil, the cartoon?
No.
Okay, you'll have to look it up.
Okay, I'll go to the Google machine and
Classic,
look up Beanie and Cecil.
Mm-hmm.
Beanie and Cecil.
Beanie and Cecil.
That might have been a regional thing. I don't know. Is that? I don't know. So Cecil, hey guys, Cecil from Tallahassee. Wanted to get your thoughts on the Niners, who were up 34-3 in the final seconds, running and passing the ball to McCaffrey to maintain his touchdown streak. Was this Bush League? So, yeah, I saw this in real time on Red Zone, and that just totally turned me off. I did not appreciate that. I think you had mentioned that the fact that chances are they're not going to face the Jaguars anytime soon, especially this year, unless it was a Super Bowl,
right?
And probably in another 3 or 4 years, based on how the scheduling works. But that was some really Bush League stuff. You had 4 quarters to get that.
Yeah,
you have 4 quarters. Yeah. 34-3. That to me was embarrassing. What do you think?
I agree 100%. There's really nothing else I can say to that. I mean, It reminds me when Michael Strahan got the sack record when arguably, and there was a little controversy about whether or not Brett Favre had gone down on purpose, to give Strahan that record because they were best buds or something. So, I don't like any of that kind of stuff. Manufactured or contrived records. It should all happen within the flow of the game.
Yeah, so I'm glad it didn't escalate where players on the Jaguars didn't take it personally and do anything, any cheap shots or anything like that. So
you didn't ever get any records like that were given to you in your athletic career?
No, nope, not a single one. Sorry. I was pretty much by the book, Reggie.
Of course you are. Yep.
We got another one. Our guy, Douglas. I'm calling him Doug. Hola, this is Douglas from Orange County. I'm guessing that's in the LA area. What NFL legend did it pain you to see in another uniform at the end of their career? Another good question. First thing that jumps out to me is Emmitt Smith in the Cardinals uniform. And I think he had a nice little season with them.
Yeah.
Nothing spectacular. And I think like I was a big Andre Rison fan. So seeing him not in the Falcons uniform and seeing him in a Green Bay, especially with Green Bay, and then winning a Super Bowl with Green Bay, that kind of hurt. What about you?
The first one that comes to mind for me is Joe Montana, legendary 49ers quarterback, going to the Chiefs at the tail end of his career. And you can't blame any of these guys for taking the big money at the end of their career when they're, the team that really got them to the pinnacle, is ready to part ways. And they were ready to part ways and, basically because Steve Young was there, and they were like, hey, we can't keep this guy sitting down any longer. He's ready to roll, and he did. So for me, it would have been Montana. I would have rather seen him kind of move off into the sunset, but he was still a hero anyway.
What's interesting is Montana handing off to a running back who played for the Raiders in a Chiefs uniform as well, in Marcus Allen. So it was kind of odd seeing that as well. And they had some, marginal success as well.
Yeah, they made the playoffs, but didn't go very far. But they probably, for Kansas City at the time, that's what they were looking for. It's like, get us there, and after he's gone, we'll move up from there.
Randy Moss in a Raiders uniform for that little stint. Jerry Rice in a Seahawks in a Bronco uniform, made my stomach turn. Just disgusting. But we appreciate it, Douglas and Cecil from Tally Ho. We appreciate it. Upcoming guests. We have some things cooking, marinating, percolating. Anything that we could speak on? What do you know? Talk to me.
Again, as far as our NFL Super Bowl champion that has agreed verbally to join us at some point, I think he's got so many irons in the fire right now that it's just about him finding a date, knowing that when we record the podcast, he's trying to fit it into his busy schedule, especially with the holidays coming up. So we've let him know, without any hesitation, whatever week and day and evening works for you, we'll work around your schedule. So hopefully by this time next week, we'll be able to give you something firm on that.
Okay. We're gonna have some returning guests. Probably gonna have Chris back. May have Priscilla back. Her sister, I remember she previewed her sister being a big fan. So we got some exciting things down the pike. So be on the lookout. Now, folks, it's that time. The pick time. The DAMW picks. The pick six.
Yeah.
I'm feeling so confident and just the momentum is great. I looked at these games. You looked at the games. I looked at your picks. I see you got a couple of overs. That has me excited. But let me go ahead and kick this off. I like the Texans -4 at home against the Cardinals. I know Kyler's back, and I had a little pause when I thought about it. I was like, Kyler's back. He may be getting in the swing of things, but I really think the Texans have that momentum, winning games on the road, no less, and bringing that back home. And that intensity, the fans are going to be just raucous. So I think if they can get out early, get a nice lead. And one thing that's not being talked about as much is the Texans defense. They're looking like a premier defense. They're flying around, they're causing turnovers. So I really like that energy that I saw from that defense. So I like the Texans -4 at home against the Cardinals. Also, Browns -4 versus the Steelers. So again, clash of two teams in the AFC North. I do like the Browns at home. Myles Garrett and that crew, they're going to be a headache for Pickett. I just don't see them scoring much, let alone winning the game. And I really think the Browns are going to do enough on the ground. I like what Ford has done, kind of getting that running game fortified. And I think Deshaun, slowly but surely, I know he dealt with an ankle injury and he got a little banged up, but he fought through it and got them that W. So I do like the Browns -4 at home against the Steelers. And finally, I like the Seahawks -1 at SoFi against the Rams. The Rams, I just don't see them doing much. I kind of feel bad for Puka Nakua. He was the cat's meow, if you will. He was the hot topic for the first quarter of this season, but hot topics and popularity doesn't get you W's. And the Seahawks, they need to, especially in division, get a win like that on the road and continue their playoff push. So I do love Seattle -1 on the road against the Rams in SoFi Stadium. On to you, Roger.
Yeah, I like those. So as you mentioned, Reg, I have 2 overs. Dallas at Carolina over 42 points. I love that because of the fact that, when I look at overs and I'm looking at a mismatch of a game, kind of like Dallas and the Giants last week, I base an over on a number like 42 on how many points I think the winning team, in this case Dallas, will put up. And I see them putting up, 30 plus. So I'm needing Carolina to, score 10 to 14 points to make this game go over. And
5 field goals.
Yeah, 5 field goals. That would be fine. And that should be covered pretty easily. For my other over is Tampa Bay at San Francisco. Again, one of those situations where San Francisco got right last week, clicking on all cylinders. And 41 points to me is a low number. I think and Tampa, of course, coming off a win, they have enough weapons, I think, to score, a couple of touchdowns against San Francisco. So I'll look at both of those totals, 42 in the Dallas-Carolina game, 41 in the Tampa. I'll look at both of those totals as kind of low numbers for those 2 games. And then my third pick is the Raiders plus 12 at Miami. And, I can give you a lot of reasons for that. But first and foremost, it's a big number. Secondly, Miami still hasn't beaten anybody that has a winning record. Not that the Raiders do. They're 5-5, but they are fired up beyond belief. I've been seeing a lot of Raiders interviews with, especially with Max Crosby, and the whole team is brought into Antonio Pierce. And, I just think that their defense is a force to be reckoned with. And 12 is a big number. I don't care who they're playing. So those are my 3 picks.
That's a huge number. I'll give you one thing. If anything, you're courageous in getting those big numbers. They scared me to death. But I do agree. that that they should cover that 12 points.
Yeah, if I had a quarter for every time someone's called me courageous, I'd probably have
50 cents.
I think $1, maybe $1 by now.
No, but you are brave. Because I sure wasn't gonna play those. So kudos to you. But all in all, I love them. I love the overs. I love my picks, of course. So 5-1. We need to kind of reset the baseline to 5-1, 4-2. That's cool. We've done that, been there, done that. I'm looking for 5-1 at the very least. And of course, a perfect week would be great. But 5-1, I think we can do it. I think we have it in us. I think that's about it. Short and sweet. Any plans this weekend outside of football?
Pretty much football. I mean, one thing I can tell you is that last week I mentioned that, it was such a great time of year, the frost is on the pumpkin, all that type of stuff. It's perfect football time of the year. You got the in college football, you got rivalry week coming up here pretty soon. And then just when you're thinking about Thanksgiving turkey and all that, I look outside in my neighborhood and there are Christmas trees up already. So it's kind of, just slow the roll a little bit, calm it down a little bit. I mean, I'm going to start buying Easter candy in the first week of January.
Yeah.
Everybody's in such a big hurry. And as you know, as we get older, time goes by fast anyway.
Flying.
just slow it down a little bit.
Amen.
But that's all I got for you. Parting
Yeah.
last words.
We'll slow it down, but we're going to speed up this ending. Thank you all. Hope you enjoyed week 11 of the DAMW, the Don't Ask Me Why podcast. Again, follow us on YouTube, Instagram. We'll see you next week. Peace.
Let's make some money.
Let's get that damn W. Make some money. Peace.
Bye, folks.